Hello and welcome to today's watercolour workshop, where I'm going to go through a demonstration of drawing and then painting a basic painting. This is by no means a complete painting. I will, after finishing the video, do bits of complete work with it. So I hope you enjoy it and you gain something from it, and thank you in advance for watching the video. So we're at the start of our painting today, and I just want to show you one or two of the basic tools that I'll be using. Obviously, to make a start, I'll be using a pencil. This is a mechanical one by Derwent, Precision. Because I've made many mistakes, I'll be using a rubber probably. I've taped down my paper. I've got my palettes ready that I'll be mixing all my painting, and now I've got my brushes, several of which are dagger ones because you've got some nice angles that you can produce. So got one or two bigger brushes for doing wash type work, and we have a thin rigger brush and a filbert, and that's if I use that. I may not use that many, but that's the basic setup. So let's just have a quick look at the picture. I might even put it up on screen. So it's, I assume, a picture of Venice with a gondola in the front. It's not massively detailed, but it's got some nice effects and feels to it, with it being a fuzzy sunset. So we'll have a look at that, see if I can get it to come up so you can see. It has got slight detailing on it, but I think that'll make a nice watercolour. So let's crack on with it, and we'll make a start by getting the drawing done. So about halfway down the page, I want a rough horizon line because it actually steps down a bit in the original painting. So if you get about that far across, it does come down a little bit, and then it does again come down a little bit about there. So that is a supposed horizon. So what we want to consider, in the very background there's a silhouette of a building. Now I don't want to be going too detailed with it. I'm just gonna go like that, and that, just let that come that far across there. Hope you can see this. Now roughly round about here, that's where the right hand side building starts to become obvious and present. I think there are other buildings in the background, but you'll see how important they are later in the image. So something there. Oh, I don't know whether it's a tree or not, but we'll draw that, and then we come to the main background image, which is the domed building. At this moment in time I'm not going to be drawing every little detail. I just want a rough idea of where things are going to go. So that's your first tier. It's got a second tier, this this building. It's a very famous building in Venice, but I forgot what its name is due to a lack of culture on my part. And very reminiscent of St Paul's Cathedral with the dome area on it. So as we're talking about the dome, I'll start fitting that in. Most of this is going to be quite silhouetted, so we don't really need to overly concern ourselves with massive amounts of detail. So I'm just concentrating at the moment, so if I go silent you know what's happening. I'm nearly done with that. That's about centred, isn't it? So we'll just get the pinnacle bit. And yet another dome, and that's that. We've got a little bit like that, and we're sorted. The next bit on, there's again it's a dome. It's very loosely. We're not looking for technical drawing precision. We're just getting rough details in. And this is how you'd work if you were plein air drawing. You won't be going into lots of detail. You'd be really just trying to do things fairly basically. And then we've got this tower that comes up round about the same height as what that does. That almost looks a little bit like a lighthouse for some strange reason. And we've got this here again, little bits of blocking in. We're not too concerned about exact size. I'll just make it fairly clear that there are bits round here that have they look like windows, but they're probably great big massive doors or entranceways with columns and things like that. That's probably what they are. Whereas there are some here that are definitely windows, but I'm not going to be putting all windows in. We can paint those in later on, just as long as we know that there's going to be something there. And exactly the same there. And that's it for the buildings in the background. Now what I've got to do is find out where that is. So I'm going to say around about there. And get this bolt in now. That comes up nearly to the horizon line there. And the silhouetted shadow will go around there somewhere. flattens out a bit, and then goes up like that to that classic gondola shape. Basically an elongated banana. Sorry for people in Italy for ruining your culture. We'll bring the punt thing in there. That might have a little bit of a... At the moment we're not going to be putting any great suggestion of that, because that will be put in later in the image. We'll put some seats in there, a few little bits there, and our people who are in the gondola, because it's good to get people into it, paintings if you possibly can. It gives it a sense of humanity. Humanity, is that right? I don't know. So, and again, that you might have a suggestion of that, but only very briefly. Alright, and maybe apart from that, which is not absolutely necessary, and there's that there, isn't there, but whether that distracts, I don't know. We've just got to make a decision now where we're gonna... I'm very lightly put this in, because I want the watercolour to actually dictate where that goes, the sun. So that's going to be the cloud there, and then there's going to be a strong light source around that area. So, but I'll let the watercolour do its own thing with that. But that now is the drawing prepared. We'll move on now to doing the background of the painting, and we'll have a brief look at the paints that I'm going to use. So these are my White Nights 12 set that I got recently. They come in these are really good for plain air work, because as you can see it's in a very compact box, and I've got all the colours really I'll ever really need, to be frank, with the 12 I've got there. So it's a very recommended set, that, especially if you're going out doing plain air work. So they're the paints I'm going to be using. I'll put them to one side and we'll start concentrating. And what I like to do is work from the background to the foreground, so you got a sense of depth. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get the background in first. If we get the background right, the rest of it's dead easy. Just as an addition to those paints, I've got the White Nights Tube Sepia, which I like to use for dark areas, and it's not White Nights this, but it's Winsor & Newton White, China White, and I use that to quickly adjust tonal values in some paints. So I don't paint white on to watercolours directly, it's just there to tone colours down. Right, Right, so to start with, I just wanted to keep one or two areas of the painting absolutely white. So to do that, what I'm going to use is a pastel. It's an oil pastel, so when you put water on it, obviously it'll bounce off it, so it will remain white. If you're using coloured paper, you'd have to use a completely transparent wax crayon, but this will do fine. So round about this area here, I'm going to do a very intense white area. And I may just do a little bit of a line. Just let it ripple away a bit. So now we've established where that strong white light is, I'll come down here and just and it will get larger as it gets closer. There you go, and that's that done and protected. Hopefully that will protect the painting while I'm doing fairly vigorous work. So let's make a start then with the painting. Obviously I'm going to wet the background area, and I'm not being too delicate about this because quite a bit of this area here round the dome is actually a bit fuzzed out anyway by the background, so we're not massively worried about that. So even if I come into that area, and I'm being fairly generous with amount of water I'm pouring in. And that's going to come down there. So what colours are we going to go for? So we'll be wanting, obviously we'll be using some kind of orangey red, won't we? So let me get some white on that. I'm not going to be telling you each colour that I'm going to be doing, but I'll just let you look and see, because you might see different colours in the paint than what I do in the actual image. So I've got a pinky colour, that's a nice base colour to start with. I'll possibly get a darker colour in there, a bit of a greyer colour. And at this moment in time, I'm actually, with the sky, I'm painting it flat rather than in some cases you have an angle that you paint the watercolour with, but I feel that I want to paint this one fairly flat. there. Now, so I'm just looking for greyish tones. That's a bit too strong, I think, that. But it don't matter, because that can come into here. And, I don't think we're that far off the background for first layer done, because you don't really want to be doing too much with it. So while that is drying, what we can actually do is this area, see if we can get some of these colours to come into this area, so we've got a bit of a match. Although in the picture itself, the photo reference, I find the water is slightly more orangey coloured than the sky area, so I don't want them to be absolutely matched up. So let's see if we can mix some colours. It's going to be fairly intense round there. And wet that. And once we're happy with that, we can put some darker tones in it. But I'm very tempted to make sure that is totally dry. So at this stage I'm going to leave it to dry for a while. So we're now fairly much dry all over the area that we put the first wash in. We want to start getting some more colour in this area and getting a little bit more grey value into this area here, and that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to possibly use this brush here, this Filbert, one of my favourite brushes. I've got some fresh water, put that there, and I'll start looking to making a grey wash, and I'm going to use what I've had in the past with that. Might put a bit of green in. You might think this is a bit weird, but what I'm doing is I'm just making a mush really. And there we go, we've got a greyy browny colour, which kind of is what I'm after. But before I do any more of that, I've just realised that I wanted to do a little bit more red work in the painting. Just a splash of red, not too much, because you can overdo this if you're not careful. Then just ripples in certain areas. If I can blend that in, because don't want it to be too strong a colour. In reality, the rest of the painting is for the sky is just adding extra bits of value into the painting. So now we're gonna need to get some more paint sorted out. It seems to have evaporated that for some strange reason. So the grey value of the cloud round here is more of a warm tone as far as I can see, but we'll have a look and see what we can produce from that. I'm scraping along. Trying to find areas that'll be of interest, and all of this will settle out. And again, it's not overly crucial that we're going over the foreground building, because that's going to have a darker tone, and that should really cover over quite easily. What you want to avoid is putting lighter tones over dark, because it's not that easy. So I'm drying the brush off, and I'm going to see if I can feather that so that the edges aren't as prominent. And it really is just a matter of playing around with that. And again, I'm going to stop the video at this stage, and I'm going to let that area dry, although I might continue on adding a few bits of detailing from that in there. Not too much, because that's going to have a much bluer tone than what this has. And literally we're just building layers up. Get rid of that because it's a bit, there you go, that's better. And my tip for painting watercolours is work with the paint, let it do the work. Don't try forcing it to do something it don't want to do. See if I can get a little bit more teeny weeny bit more so I'm going to see if I can get some nice clear yellow. And might be a tiny bit strong, but it don't matter because we're going to flush that out a bit. And always remember that colours settle differently with watercolours. They do tend to be a lot lighter than what you think they're going to be. And now I can start seeing areas where in the reference photo there's definite areas of strong light. Just making sure that that's nice and wet. I'm going to go back in again with some of that browny colour and really emphasise that area. I feel that that's a key point. Get a little bit there as well. Very lightly. Get that, there's a little bit of a cloud there, and re-emphasise that bit there, and bring that in there. And I don't think I'm that far off completion with this bit here. Might be a little bit of work to do with it, and sometimes you have to go back over it once you've started doing the foreground, because the foreground dominates a little bit too much. So we'll keep an eye on that, but for this moment in time, that's roughly that done. This is a fairly dry brush I'm using so it just hits and misses. You can use it to feather certain things out that are fairly strong, take the edge off the artwork. What I'm going to do is bring some of that grey brown pink into certain areas of this basilica building, and I'll overlap that with some grey blue once it's dried. So just mixing a bit of brown and a bit of yellow, a bit of blue, get some more of that red in it. Now, because of the building being closer to us, it's going to be slightly stronger than what the background is. So I'm going to I'm not being too fussy about it. Probably still a little bit too wet this. That's all I really wanted. Just wanted to put that in to tie it in a little bit, and later we'll get the benefit from that by there being a lot more value in the painting. Again, it's mop it up a little bit, just add it a little bit there. Just going to mop up a little bit of paint, and that sometimes can give you an opportunity to add bits of texture in and tonal value. What we need to concentrate on after this is getting this far background all done, but I still want to try and get a bit more definition in this area here, so I'll go over another go with that, and I'll get me trusty brush, and I'm gonna get that brown I had, and put a bit of black in it, and water it down heavily. Maybe a little bit of yellowy, and you start to get a mucky grey, which is roughly what we're trying to get anyway. Although that's a little bit green at the moment. Let's see if we can that will do. So making sure that it's not too strong, because we're only putting a very light wash over this. Tad bit strong there, so see if I can nip it out. And then reapply it, making sure that we've got rid of quite a bit of water there. Get rid of some of that. and continue to emphasise that little bit there. Put that down and then put water in and see if we can join that up, and it should push out a bit. That's it. Encourage that to move a tad. And that hopefully should be the sky done. My blues in round there, my grey blues and round this area, and then we'll finish off by putting grey blue areas in there. And I can't work this area yet because it's still quite wet. Although let's have a look, see if we can do it. No, it's way too wet, that. So let's see if we can encourage this dark blue area now. Want it to have a strong signature of blue, but not that much that it's going to overtake it. I'll try and take most of it off because I'm going to try a bit of dry brush technique on this. So in certain areas you can afford round here to make that more blended. There's going to be less of the blue in this area because there's some strong light. The blues are shaded areas really. And that's going to be strongly dominated down here by the fact that there's a little bit of it's got a bit of a shadowing there. If you do any vertical strokes, you've got to make sure that it's reasonably vertical because it can look a bit skewed if you're not careful. Why not call it a blue? And again, this is an area here that looks a bit of a choppy bit of water, so we'll emphasise that. And just a little bit more, and that dry brush technique worked quite nice for that. And apart from some detailing round here where the gondola is, I'm not going to be doing that much more with this on the water area. So I've given this area here a bit of time to settle down, and I think it's a bit too strong, that, so I am going to pull quite a bit of that off. You can always nip a bit off like that and blend stuff out. Now, hopefully, in fact I'll make sure it is, because what I'll do is I'll all this area here I'm going to take a little bit away, and then we'll start getting those blues in. This blue I'm using is ultramarine, and I'm adding black to it. That's the strongly. I'll just show you. It's quite strong, that. But we'll water that down. And we'll see how this goes. No, it's still too strong there. I'll wait until that's fully dry, because I really don't want that to bleed. Yeah, it's a bit better that now. I've got to say, this paper's not helping me. I could have done with putting some better paper on, using better paper. So we're getting these grey-blue colours in, as the original photo has quite a bit of that kind of stuff. This is where you start getting a little bit detailed. Might be a slightly too larger brush there for doing this. Maybe time for the bigger brush. Maybe. Don't know. I think I've just about got away with that. If you don't feel comfortable with a brush this kind of size, always go down a bit. I hope I've not lost too much footage there. It went out of focus and I weren't watching, but what I've done is I've put the grey area in around here, this greyish blue area. So we're going to do exactly, once this is all done, we're going to complete this part of the painting with a blues and tinges of strong red and areas of white. Then that's the background done. Then we want to concentrate on that, which is basically just a silhouette, and we're almost done. So again, it is still in the background, that, even though it's prominent, so we don't want to be putting too strong a set of colours in it, just very subtle areas that suggest. And I'm not painting this as though it's, you know, super detailed, because it's not. So now parts of buildings, so the sunlight's coming from behind it and in that direction, so things that are facing this side are going to be slightly darker than that. So if you keep things like that in mind, it helps you give a sense of reality, that. Just making sure that that area is yeah. Just get one or two more bits here, and I'm letting the paint that I put in before it, the light tones, tell me where I need to put the dark tones. And the simpler you keep these paintings, the more effective they are. So there might be an odd little bit of in these darker areas. I'm going to leave that and do any more detailing for that a little bit later on, once we've got that dried off a bit. So now what I want to do is concentrate on, just while that's drying, concentrate on getting this blocked out, and I'm going to use that dark blue rather than black, because if I use black it'll be way too strong. So the dark blue will be great. Now I'm not looking for anatomical perfection here. I just want to get this guy in. There we go. This is where I always end up getting it wrong. I've got it right for a change. I'll put a little bit of a blob there and go. And this dark blue will help a lot because it won't over dominate the image, and it'll tie in with the rest of colours as well. This is where you can afford to be a bit watercolory. Certain areas of it being stronger in pigment than others. Like that. Get towards come to the back of the boat or whatever, gondola. I must get myself some culture. Gondola. Get a little bit of maybe a shadow of or reflection there. And again, I might have to go over this one a little bit. So we're going to go down here. So I think, I don't know what's happening with my camera, but it keeps going blurry on me, and it shouldn't be doing because it's set to be manual. So just what I've been doing really is getting this done. I'm just putting a second coat of this on just to give it a bit of strength. But I want it to stand out to some extent because literally it's the most forward thing in the painting. Get a little bit of that in like that. Don't need that much on it. More dry brushy. Making sure that I'm not touching that too much. And then now this is more or less dry, I'm going to go in with some not overly dark, but some last minute details really. Let's see if we can do it without it. Being fairly loose with it, just to add that extra bit of value to it. In certain areas, that because it's there's a little bit in this foreground area. Again, we're not talking about mega detail, it really is. See if I can a bit too strong. And I don't know if you can actually see it on the video, but that's roughly my interpretation of the original picture. Might need a little bit more work doing on it, but at this stage I think that's about done really. So let's just have a quick look, see if we can with the video, see if we can have a more detailed look at it. When you look at the background area, there's quite a few browny, pinky reds, very subtle sky finishes. You can't really see with video the colours that are actually in it, but again it needs to be really subtle anyway, because we're talking about silhouettes here really. So what I then did is put a little bit of that background readiness into the basilica building here, and then went over that with a grey blue, and that's exactly the same with these backgrounds, but obviously you put less detail in and you're a lot lighter. With the water, it is again, it's the browny orangey red with progressively more as you go farther away grey blue, and your final touch is getting your gondola and the people in the gondola in. So that's the painting. I've enjoyed this time that we've done a live painting, as it were. and if you like it, let me know and I'll do some more another time. So thank you, and don't forget, if it's your first time, subscribe, and if you're regularly coming to watch my videos, don't forget to press your thumbs up and you click your likes and all these other things that you can do. So also I don't mind people commenting. So anyway, thank you for your time, and I hope to see your artwork soon also. Bye.